just got probably about 6 or 7 months ago. Got the position for applying for
Is
it.
that most of you guys working?
She got it.
Could be the apartments on the frontage.
She was a paralegal all those years, and then
Background,
It's
get
good
rid
for
of-
somebody
get that budget
recommended.
straightened out.
It's going to be for Estes mostly.
Just help them.
There's not that many general people.
likes it. Yeah. I live across from Jerry.
So I guess this lady here that Mike's talking to is here for, I guess it is here for Estes.
You ready?
How did the zoning board go with it?
24?
2 minutes.
Special field.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was fine.
We have tons of calls.
The homeowners group does.
I said, if you keep coming to me,
Ready, Jim? Call the meeting to order.
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Rusnellis?
Here.
Mr. Walden?
Here.
Mr. Strong?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this is the duly advertised meeting of the Joliet Plan Commission for the month of June. We've got an agenda printed in front of us. The only thing I'd like to call your attention is we've really got 4 items under consideration, but there really is, for the Estes trucking one, is really like technically item number, it should be item number 1 and 3, but they've been combined, so we'll treat that as a number 1. We've got, they were filed at different times, one of which was tabled for the other petition to catch up to that. So the first one under consideration, we've got an annexation. It's A216, the annexation of 38.4 acres located at the northeast corner of Laraway and Route 52. Its classification to I-1 light industrial zoning, and also the approval of an annexation agreement. And then a companion annexation is A516. That's the annexation of an additional 28 acres located at the northeast corner of Laraway and Route 52. That classification also to I-1, as well as the approval of an annexation agreement. In both requests, it's Estes Trucking Lines of Virginia Corporation acting as the developer and the buyer. The current owner is FBOM LLC, and also the estate of James Gast. With the requested actions, the approval of annexations, the classifications to I-1, and approvals of annexation agreements. The purpose is to allow the development of a trucking terminal. This property is in unincorporated Will County, zoned agricultural A1. The proposed zoning would be the I-1 light industrial, and again, the northeast corner of Laraway and 52. It's currently agricultural land. Surrounding land use and zoning to the north is recreational with the Will County Forest Preserve. That's zoned A1 in the county. To the south is single family, some commercial, and some agricultural. And it's zoned A1, R2A, and C4 in Will County. To the east is institutional with a church, as well as some agricultural and zoned A1, I1, and C1 in the county. And then to the west is single family, commercial, and agricultural zoned A1, R3, and C2, also in the county. Under site history, the Estes annexation was tabled for 2 months in April 2016 by the Plan Commission. The petition was tabled to allow time for an anticipated inclusion of an additional 28 acres, and that's Estes East as part of the truck terminal project. Under special information, the applicant is requesting the annexation to allow the construction of a truck terminal at the site. Concurrent with the annexation request, the petitioner is requesting a special use permit to allow a trucking facility at the subject site at the Zoning Board of Appeals. That was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals at this afternoon's meeting. As noted on the plat, the annexation, the property has a number of underground gas lines and utility easements at the south end of the site, as well as the 250-foot wide ComEd height utility easement. Under the development plan, Estes Express Lines plans to develop a truck terminal to facilitate over-the-road delivery of goods by semi-truck. A proposed site plan is attached. The development will be required to meet applicable requirements of the city's public works and utilities departments, including storm detention provision. The site is subject to the city's landscaping and screening requirements as per the zoning ordinance, and then also the city sewer and water tap-on fee, economic development impact fee, and the East Side Sanitary District detachment fee requirements. Elements of the proposed development plan include on the site parking for 467 trailers, parking for 115 tractors, a 298-car parking lot, and then also the construction of the following buildings: a 67,000 square foot metal building with 147 dock doors, and then also a future 2,400 square foot expansion to the building that would add an additional 50 dock doors. The second building would be a 6,000 square foot masonry office building, which would be attached to the metal building in the front. And then the third building is a 21,712 square foot shop building. A landscape buffer will be provided on Laraway Road and 52 according to the site plan. The petitioner plans to utilize a 6-foot high chain link fence around the perimeter of the site. That fence will have 3 rows of barbed wires, resulting in a 7-foot overall fence height. And in addition to that, in addition to the 7-foot fence, a 10-foot high electric fence is proposed to be positioned 1 foot behind the 7-foot fence. The Community Design Review Board reviewed this matter on June the 2nd, and the minutes of that meeting are on file with the Planning Division, and that concludes our staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner for this item, please?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Michael Hanson, 735 Essington Road, Joliet, representing the petitioner. Also here with me is Angela Maidment, Vice President of Estes Trucking out of Richmond, Virginia, along with our local engineer, Rodney Tonelli, Rudiger and Tonelli.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to
No other
staff report?
comments to the staff report.
Any comments or questions from the commission?
Yes, and I don't know if this would be for you, Mike, or anything, but on the part of the fence with the 3 rows of barbed wire and then the electric fence, and not for me, I'd like to see a moat with crocodiles in it too, but is there any problem that it's adjacent to a subdivision with the city?
Well, it's,
I don't know anybody else besides when we had it out at the IYC on McDonough Street where you had the concertina like that.
I think that is a special request that we have had, Rick, in
Right.
all honesty, to the city based on our particular use in our business. That's what we have at other locations. So, I think the city agreed to do that in this specific situation. So,
Is
part of our annexation.
and Rick, the interesting thing is the electrified fence is behind the perimeter fence with the barbed wire on top of it. So somebody would have to have some idea of breaking into the property before they would be able to access that electrified fence. And I know we've talked to other trucking companies, and I know in talking to the one trucking company, they were telling me that one of the containers that they get in from overseas had, one container alone had a value of merchandise worth $2 million in it.
okay.
And so that's the reason why I think security-wise and some of their carriers, or insurance carriers, sometimes insist that they go through these extra measures. The thing that we've looked at though, is that we've approved the perimeter fences for everybody, and somebody would have to get beyond the perimeter fence before they would access that electrified fence. And we have done a lot of research because we have had other requests for these, and what you find out is that these things are 700 volts, but not a lot of amperage. And the company that supplies the fencing, they don't say this publicly very often, but it's not anything that's life-threatening at all. If you touched it, it would be like an agricultural fence. If you touched it, you're going to get a jolt, you're going to pull back.
Just haven't seen this before,
Yeah.
that's why I was wondering.
And this thing is run off of a car battery that gets replenished by a solar panel. But the interesting thing about it is that the electrified fence is also part of a security system. So if there's a breach in the fence and somebody short circuits the electrified fence, the system will know where it's at on the perimeter, and then it'll send a warning out via computer to whoever's on duty to monitor this, and they'll know approximately where the breach was, where somebody was trying to get in. So it's part of a security system. It's it's somewhat of a deterrent. The shock value of it is somewhat of a deterrent, but it's not anything that's life-threatening at all. No, not lethal at all.
Are they going to have security people working inside the perimeter?
I think they're a 24/7 operation, so I think there's going to be people there all the time.
Okay. Well, think you can get some gators from Disney World, so.
Maybe not anymore.
Any other comments or questions from the commission?
Yes, the infrastructure around this whole development, not only this new one's come, but it is terrible out there, and it's so bad. Right there at 52 and Laraway, there's 10 trucks lined up all the time. And this is just, how are they going to go in and out of this place and avoid any more type of traffic there? Because I know people that live there, and I was raised out that way, and I cannot believe when I go out there, just the hassle and the
Don,
trucks.
the trucks are going to go, through up to I-80 on Brick Street. That's really the major arterial route. So,
Oh,
that's not like
That-
the 53 route.
And Don, one of the interesting things about this, we had a session with the developers, and I can tell you, this is very similar to the Conway trucking terminal that they built down on the Caterpillar property. And the one observation that I know about with the Conway dock, and we asked them about their potential here, is that during the course of the day, midday, it's a very quiet place. Most of these trucks are interstate trucks that are making deliveries within a 2 or 3 state radius. So the trucks will leave in the early morning hours and come back in the late evening hours. So they're not going to be in conflict with anybody going to or from work, and they will not be in conflict with school buses picking up kids in the morning or bringing them back in the afternoon. Yes, you will get an occasional truck that will come back during the midday, but by and large, most of their fleet will be out on the road in the early morning hours and will not be back until the late evening hours. So out of the way of most of the coming and going for most of the people. I think what you see down on Laraway Road, it's been my experience that most of the trucks are gravel trucks hauling into the waste management site at the end of Laraway Road. That's most of the traffic that's on, most of the truck traffic on Laraway. There are container trucks there, but I think they're in the minority as compared to the gravel trucks that are going to the Vulcan Quarry, the Gallagher Asphalt Plant, and then the sheer majority of them, I think, are the gravel 18-wheelers that are going into that waste management site.
well, there's got to be a lot of traffic there. You wouldn't build 2 gas stations right there in that
Correct.
corner if there wasn't a lot of trucks. Come on.
You're right about
mean,
that.
And, how do the people, have anybody talked to any of the people on Rowell Avenue and that where, that's going to have quite effect in that area too now, if these trucks are going in and out all the time.
Yeah.
I didn't know they were going to open up that road. I mean, 2 trucks.
Which
There-
one?
What is, the old Rowell Avenue.
Oh, yeah, Rowell's just for that one development though, just for the one building. And that's
And that's
what,
that's
that's
what,
2
a couple
mile and a half, 2
west
miles
of where
away.
we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
Yeah, this one is back at between Cherry Hill and Route 52. And they'll only have the one access point off of Route 52, which is the state route. There'll be no access point off of Laraway Road at this point in time. And then you can see they will have property that they will own on Cherry Hill Road, but they will not use that for access at all. 1 point in, 1 point out. The car employees will come in a separate entrance, but the tractor trailers all come in one entrance. And they do that for security reasons.
well, my point is, yes, we need the business, and, you don't want to turn down a good thing for the city or the community itself. But I think we should get some communication to these people for some infrastructural projects. I mean, we as the city goes and is developing, which is great, it's doing a good thing, but we just can't sit back rocking our chairs and let this thing go and not get something done. It's not the businesses. We welcome them, and then we affect our neighbors of all these different
But
places.
the fact that this is in a different location, as Jim pointed out, when the trucks are coming in and out, helps to, counterbalance what's going on down further west, so.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the information.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, a motion is in order for A-2-16 and A-5-16.
So moved.
Call the roll.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Roosnellis?
Aye.
Mr. Walden?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Now, if we could go out of order a little bit here, we could release Mike Hanson. He's here for the, I guess would be the third item on the agenda, the preliminary plat for Centerpoint Business Center I-80 subdivision. In that case, we're dealing with P316. It's the preliminary plat of the Centerpoint Business Center I-80 subdivision Phase 5. The applicant is Centerpoint Joliet LLC. The request is the approval of a preliminary plat. The purpose is to create 4 industrial lots for future development. It's currently zoned in I-2 General Industrial Zoning. Its location is west of Lark and south of 6. Size in question is 41.1 acres. It's currently undeveloped industrial. Surrounding land use and zoning is industrial I-2 to the north. To the south is the Des Plaines River I-2. To the east and the west is industrial with I-2. Under site history, as part of the city's non-jurisdictional review authority, a preliminary plat of the Centerpoint Joliet Park subdivision was approved in April of 2005. The annexation, the zoning classification to the I-2, and the approval of the annexation agreement was recorded on March the 5th of 2012. A revised preliminary plat, the final plat, and the recording plat were approved in August of 2012. Subsequent units have been recorded from July of 13 through December of 15. Under special information, the petition is requesting the approval of Phase 5 of the preliminary plat in order to allow the subdivision and the continued industrial development of the Centerpoint Business Center. There is currently a proposal to develop on Lot 1, which is 30.8 acres with a wheeled storage facility. Lot 2 is 2.6 acres, and that will contain the existing rail spur, which will likely be merged with the one adjacent users. Lot 3, which is 6.5 acres, will serve the lot for Terminal Court, which is a private drive. Lot 4 is 1.3 acres and has no known future development plans at this time. An overall general landscape plan has been previously submitted that complies with the city's ordinance and the terms of the approved annexation agreement. All individual lots will maintain a 5-foot wide perimeter landscape area and submit individual landscape plans as individual lots develop. All public improvements will be completed as per the requirements of the approved annexation agreement, the subdivision regulations, and the Public Works and Utilities Department. Water and sanitary sewer connection charges and development impact fees will be required as the annexation required. And then lastly, the Community Design Review Board reviewed this matter on June the 2nd, and the minutes of that meeting are available. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner for this item?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Michael Hanson, 735 Essington Road, Joliet, representing with, I believe, the staff report, so we ask for approval of our petition.
Very good. Nothing to add.
Nothing to add.
Any questions from the commission?
The wheeled storage, is that tractors and trailers, Mike?
Yes, it is, but it will not be, it'll be trailers or containers on trailers, but it's not going to be container stacking of any kind.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, then a motion's in order for PUD-3-16.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Roosnellis?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Walden?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
And members of the commission, I apologize because Mike's got one more here. He's got A416, it's an annexation. So we'll do that one next. So I took them out of order. I probably didn't have to do that, but in this case, we're dealing with the annexation of 8.82 acres east of Rowell Avenue, a classification to I-2 General Industrial Zoning, as well as the approval of an annexation agreement. The applicant is Randy L. Harris, the owner of the property. The requested action is the approval of an annexation, classification to I-2 General Industrial, and the approval of an annexation agreement, and the purpose is to allow the consolidation with contiguous land holding of the owner within the corporate limits of Joliet. The property is currently zoned agricultural in the county. The location is the east side of Rowell, north of I-80. Again, it's 8.82 acres. It's undeveloped, surrounded on all sides by industrial, a combination of I-2, I-1, and some unincorporated Will County. Under site history, the subject parcel was part of a larger 26-acre parcel that also included the old Joliet Beach Club, which was petitioned for annexation and zoning in January of 16, but was withdrawn by the petitioner prior to Plan Commission action. Under special information, the petitioner is requesting the approval of an annexation, zoning classification, and the annexation agreement to allow the consolidation of the subject site within the city limits with his existing Joliet Auto Parts business. That's located at 1014 East Washington Street. The approval will allow the business to expand their vehicle shredding operation and combine the permitting process to one municipality. The shredder operation accepts personal and auction vehicles and shreds the metals and recycles the material. Water from the existing pond is utilized as a vapor in order to suppress the dust during the process. The subject site will not be utilized for additional storage of salvage material. The city's Public Works and Utilities Department was requiring a storm sewer outfall, but is not requiring that anymore. A detachment fee for the East Joliet Fire Protection District has previously been paid. Library district taxes were not paid in the past, and therefore detachment fees are not required. And then lastly, the Community Design Review Board met on June the 2nd, and the minutes are available, and that concludes this staff report.
Thank you. Could we have the petitioner for this item?
Michael Hanson, 735 Essington Road, representing the petitioner. Nothing further to add, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission? Any comments or questions from the audience? Hearing none, a motion's in order for A-4-16.
Move.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. Walden?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Roosonellis?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the last item up under consideration is a PUD. We're dealing with PUD 3-16. It's the preliminary planned unit development of the Tall Grass Estates subdivision. The applicant is Tall Oaks Group LLC. They are the contract purchasers. The current owner is Manuka AG Holdings LLC. The requested action is the approval of a preliminary planned unit development plat. The purpose is to construct a 156-unit apartment development. It currently is zoned an R4 multifamily residential, which would allow this type of a development. The location is the southeast corner of McDonough Street and the I-55 Southeast Frontage Road. Size of the parcel is 20.3 acres and it's currently undeveloped. Surrounding land use and zoning to the north is multifamily with an R4. To the south and to the east is undeveloped with an A1 county unincorporated Will County zoning. To the west is residential with an R3 unincorporated Will County. Under site history, the annexation and zoning and classification of the R4 multifamily of the subject site and a preliminary PUD for a proposed Emerald Ridge subdivision was approved by the mayor and the council at their meeting back in October of 2003. Emerald Ridge subdivision was never further platted or approved, and the time frame to consider it a valid subdivision has since lapsed. Under special information, the preliminary planned unit development for the Tallgrass Estate subdivision consists of 156 apartment units on 10 lots. The density for the 20.3 acres is 7.8 dwelling units per acre, which is above the normal city requirement of 6 units per acre, and that's the maximum allowed in the R4. A waiver from the maximum density requirement is being requested by the developer as part of the planned unit development plan. The developer is proposing to construct 9 16-unit buildings and 1 12-unit building. All but 3 of the units will have 2 bedrooms. The remaining 3 will be 1-bedroom units. The buildings will consist primarily of brick, minus some dormer treatments, which will be vinyl siding. Approximately half of the units could have access to one of the 20 proposed garages, which will be constructed of brick wainscoting and vinyl. Additional parking and guest parking areas will be provided along the individual drive areas. Outlots A and B will be part of the subdivision stormwater management system. A future 2,500 square foot clubhouse and pool are proposed for Outlot B, but the plans are not available at this time. The main street within the subdivision will be publicly owned and maintained. All public improvements will be required as per the subdivision regulations and Public Works and Utilities Department. A 30-foot wide landscape berm will be established along McDonough Street frontage. In addition, landscaping and a 6-foot fence will be installed along the west property line adjacent to those existing residential houses. The developer will need to have an agreement with the Joliet Park District prior to submitting the final PUD approval on the park donation requirement. connection fees, school detention fees, and developer impact fees will also be required for the subdivision. The Community Design Review Board minutes from June the 2nd are available. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Can we have the petitioner for this item, please?
Hi, Mr. Chairman, members of the Plan Commission, Rod Tonelli, Whittaker Tonelli and Associates, on behalf of Tall Oak Groups LLC. I think maybe just a couple of things to add to Mr. Haller's staff report, just so we're clear on it. We're proposing to build a clubhouse and pool as part of the development, and so it's clear it's actually going to be a 3,000 square foot clubhouse building that'll be built there. I want to make sure that it was clear to you as you read through it. We had previously brought this property in with a development plan more than probably 10 years ago to do 150 units on it. It was a different building type, and it just never happened, and then the recession happened. So we're glad to be able to have an opportunity to bring it back. It's a terrifically situated property with proximity access to 55 and 52 interchange, which makes it a great location for this use. As you're aware, too, the city's been in discussions with Cullinan about developing the outlet mall and other properties to the south. So again, this is an opportunity to bring some vitality and life into this area. So it's good to see these properties going. Be happy to answer any questions you have. And the developer here is here as well if you have questions for him.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the commission?
Yeah, a few. Are these units be for sale or are they rental?
These will be rental homes.
Rental only?
Yes.
And if I could interject, one of the discussions we had when we went through the intake with the developer is the possibility that in the future, if these ever wanted to go condominium, if the developer wanted to sell them off in the future, they would have the ability to do it. They're going to have separate water and sanitary sewer lines. They would be fully able to be sold off the individual units as a condominium. So we did not exclude that possibility in the future.
Commissioner, the buildings are very similar to the buildings that are already across the street and the Timber Oaks development. They look very similar. And as Mr.
Which
Heller,
is county?
No, that's
No,
the
it's the
city as
city.
well. Again, those were built, though, as for sale units, and a lot of those are rented. The intention here is to build them for rental, but again, each of them has their own external access. There's not common walk-ups, and so they can be converted, if there's a market for that, into condominiums in the future.
What's the square footage of the units?
Remind me the two sizes?
I know you have 2-bedroom and 1-bedroom, but
Correct.
three
I don't want to
one-bedrooms.
misstate them, so I'm going to have Ed.
The two-bedroom units.
Ed, for the record, identify yourself just so we get.
My name is Ed Maddox. I'm working as the developer for this project. The two-bedroom units are 1,100 square feet approximately, and the one-bedroom units are approximately 800 square feet. 800 square feet for a one-bedroom, 1,100 square feet for a two-bedroom.
And do you get an idea of proposed rental rates?
We had a market study done by Tracy Cross, and the average rental price is just under $1,400 per month.
Jim, I got a question here, and actually for you too, Mr. Maddox. When you originally had your plans put in, you said it was 150 units, and then now it's 156. And with the difference there, you're talking about a 20%, difference in what the city allows to going over that. Is there a reason that the city's changed to allow that, or what is the reason?
Well, originally they were going to build the same number of units, but they were going to give some additional land at the bottom of the hill that the family that ended up selling the property decided not to. They wanted to hold on to that property. So it was, and that was going to be public open space. But the family decided, so technically the net amount of property available under this scenario is a little bit less than it was originally approved. That's why there's the unit count stayed about the same, but the density went up.
Well, the ones that are adjacent that were built and we was just talking about, did they comply with the city code on it?
I don't remember, Ed, do you?
We were a little over 7 units to the acre there.
Yeah.
On Timber Oaks.
So you're talking about the same densities. They're similar projects.
Well, yeah, architecturally, they're the same building. At the time that Timber Oaks was built, it was built for sale. The economic conditions are way different today than they were back 10 years ago when we built those. And so it's really the same building, exactly the same building. Separate entrances, everything's separately metered, there's no common corridors. But the market conditions today, and what people are looking for is to have flexibility to rent. So these are homes for rent, rather than really apartments. There's no common corridors, there's no common laundry facilities, everything's separately self-contained on a per unit basis.
Except that there's only going to be about 20 parking garages for certain ones?
No, there'll be 50%, well, 50% of all the units will have a parking enclosed garage. And then we have 2 parking stalls per unit for the entire development.
Where are those located, according to the pictures here? Is there a front and
This
back,
is a-
or is this?
This is a rendering of really the building, but the site plan kind of shows where the garages are located. And like I say, there's 50% garages per building. We have accessibility, or we have access to build 100% garages, but typically in this scenario, there's not a want from the renter.
Rick, I don't know if you see it on your screen, but Jim's zeroed in on it so you could kind of see the lay of the land here, and it'll show you the garages are at this sort of the very
So they're-
back end of
they're
the,
in- Well, they didn't show them in the front, but in the back.
yeah. So on the back, I guess you'd call that on the courtyard.
A lot of
the
it's going to be
drive-
parking places.
Correct.
Yes.
There's two, again, to clarify, there's 2 parking places per unit, and then there's 1 garage for every 2 units.
Jim, have we had anybody else that's submitted this and was turned down because
No.
of the?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Is there
The
any,
density
is there
on
any
this-
chance under these rentals that if they're not going good, any of this could go to Section 8 or anything like that?
No. This is a high-end luxury rental. Our purpose is to bring this to Joliet because there is nothing like it. There's other rentals being built in the other neighboring towns, like in Naperville and Bolingbrook.
Plainfield.
Plainfield. But in Joliet, there's not really been any new luxury type apartment living. And there again, this is the same as we used to sell, but the market today doesn't allow for that. So it's really the same building and it's the same user, but they're going to rent rather than to buy. At some point,
What kind of rental are they looking for out of these, do you know?
the rental price,
Yes.
just under $1,400 per month.
Okay.
So, but what we have found, people in the Joliet area, anyone working in this area, if they're looking for a nice high-end new rental market, there just doesn't exist here. They would have to go to Plainfield, Naperville, some of those other places. And I just think that this is a great location for it, and it's the same, there again, as Timber Oaks.
Will there be any chances that these would be offered for sale if somebody wants to buy them?
If the market conditions changed, a strategy behind all this would be that you can convert a building at a time and then just put it up for sale. There's really nothing more that has to be done because the building, like I say, is built exactly as the condos were built.
Yeah.
So you're going to have each unit be metered separately then? So you have individual water meters, gas meters, electrical meters for each unit?
Everything, yes.
Very good. And I see your phasing is to do 4 units and the clubhouse to start, and then as you go, but your financing's for 2 at a time. So is that, okay.
We're going to build 2 buildings at a time. As
Right.
those lease up, then 2 more.
Are you going to do the clubhouse with those first 2? Or,
In the first phase, so within the first 2, the first 4, certainly.
any other questions from the commission?
How successful have they been over in Naperville and et cetera, your other locations?
They've been extremely successful in doing the homes for rent in, well, actually, there's two developments that just went in up on Route 59 in Naperville. There's a brand new one going in the Promenade Mall in Bolingbrook. And they're very successful.
Are you the developer also of those?
No, we did not develop those. That was a different developer.
And at Renwick and Weber in Romeoville, I think they're doing
Brand new one. Just
higher-end apartment rentals as well.
Reason they're in.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Hearing none, any comments or questions from the audience? Please come to the microphone, state your name for the record.
James Jenkins. I live over in the Timber Oaks area, in the condos. I'm against this project. I don't want to see apartments coming in. Rentals at $1,400 is absolutely ridiculous. You can buy a house for half that much. You can buy a condo over in our area for half that much. And I just don't think it's good. They ought to be built, if they want to build them, turn them into condos, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't like the rentals, because people come and go, they don't pay their bills, and when they leave, just like over in Timber Oaks, they trash the place before they leave. I don't think it's a good idea. And you're missing out on a lot of property tax money.
Thank you.
Individual units pay a lot of property tax money.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other comments or questions from the audience? Jim, what is this case number? I have it as PUD 316.
3-16.
That's right.
That's right.
Wasn't that, no, that's the same number that we did for Hanson for the cat property.
That was P3.
P3. This is PUD 3.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I must have said PUD. Very well, a motion's in order.
One more quick, Jim, on the tax stuff. The city still receives tax money from these buildings, whether they're rented or not, correct?
Yeah, once they're built, they'll be on the tax rolls, and we'll get the same, all the taxing bodies, including the schools, get the same amount of money, whether they're occupied or vacant.
Okay.
Very well. Hearing no other questions, a motion's in order for PUD-3-16.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. Call the roll.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Roosnellis? Mr. Walden?
Aye.
Mr. Strong?
Aye.
That concludes the agenda items. Next up would be the approval of the minutes from last month. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And then lastly, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, this will be Jim Haller's last plan commission. I don't know if everyone is aware, Jim's retiring. His last day is the end of next month. And this is his last go-around with the plan commission. So I think a motion is in order for a hearty round of applause for Mr. Haller.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Kendall, I wasn't aware. Thank you.
After sitting in this chair for more than 36 years, I think it's about time to go. So they are in the process of doing interviews for my replacement. I have an opinion on who should get the job, but I don't know that I have much influence over anybody anymore. So
Wish you the best of luck in retirement, Jim.
Yeah.
yeah,
You sure deserve it.
thank you.
Hope you're going to stick around.
Oh yeah, we're not going anywhere. Still staying in Glenwood Manor, and you know, I'll get involved in some things.
Good.
Yeah. So thank you, one and all.
Congratulations.